Angela, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to meet you, Wendy, and really flattered that you invited me here.
It's my pleasure. This is the most fun and fabulous thing I do of all the fun and fabulous things I do. So
I
I
love it. I love
I
it.
love the opportunity to meet new friends. It's
Love
so
it.
fun. It's the best speed dating that I can think of.
I
It's so good.
love it.
Yes, and I love that although I ask the same question to every single guest, it's never the same answer because
Oh, yeah.
they're reaching into their own heart and their own experience for the answer. So it's beautiful and expansive, and I'm loving it. And I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to hearing how you are saying yes to yourself in the season.
I'm saying yes a lot.
Hooray! I knew we'd be friends. What are you saying yes to?
Well, I'll tell you, I just most recently said yes to drum lessons.
Cool.
So I'm doing that just for no other reason than I wanted to. Um, and then the other thing, I think I'm a little bit more discerning to what I say yes to, and I am also learning and embracing the idea of saying no as a full sentence because
Mm,
no is a full sentence.
yes, it is.
So
And how is that working for you? Because I'm sure all of the listeners straightened up and got adjusted their earbuds to hear how because so much of saying yes to ourselves is saying no to the things that are just not in service to us any longer. And that
yeah,
can be a lot easier of a transition for us than for the people that
yeah.
used to be the recipients of our benevolence and self-abandonment. So how is that working for you?
Yeah, it's actually working really well. And, I think a lot of it just starts with me sort of saying to myself, if something comes up, I don't want to do this. So I say it out loud to myself because I think what that does is the act of saying it out loud kind of interrupts sort of the thinking pattern. Um, and there are some things where saying no feels abrupt, but words like I'm not available, that's three words. That's not, and so that is one way to do it. The other thing that I've stopped doing is following a no with like some dissertation of the reasons why or justifying or explaining why I'm not doing the thing or I'm not going to be at the place. I don't owe anybody that explanation. I don't. So I stand really comfortably in that idea. And if no or I'm not available, three words, I have to always count I'm not available. That's three words.
It's
If
good
those,
too because that also interrupts.
yeah, yeah, I'm not available. Okay, three words. The other thing that I've started to do as well is if somebody asks me to do something, I'll say is I can do this. So you might be asking me to do something. I either don't want to do it or can't do it or choose not to, but the choice is on me. Here's what I can do. And if you like that, that's great. And if you don't, that's also great. But
Right.
you own that decision. So it's working out really well.
I love that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
was this just something you were trying out and now it's become a habit? Was there some sort of experience that you had that I mean,
Yeah.
I love when midlife reinvention is a
Mm.
graceful unfolding, but
Mm.
sometimes it is a response to
Yeah.
burnout,
Yeah.
to just being at the very end of what we can take. And it can be more explosive necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
than we desired.
Yeah.
And so I love having these conversations and learning how the whisper got loud enough for
Mm.
you to
Mm-hmm.
hear, and then how
Mm-hmm.
were you able to integrate and then translate that to the people that are going to be affected?
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, a lot of it was, and I talk about this in the book some because it was sort of this gradual like awareness, right? And it was showing up. So the awareness was showing up in a lot of facets of my life, but so was the toll that it was taking. And it was, you know, a lot of these things were rooted in these modeled behaviors, these stories that other people told about me or that I told about myself. But if I, what I noticed, and when I got sort of quiet and I was watching and feeling what was happening, you know, it would be showing up in ways where like I would be saying yes to things I really didn't want to do, or I would be holding back my opinions in certain settings, or I would be sort of fearful of asking for what I want or asking for what I need. And so when I just sort of like started to observe these things, I was like, wait a second, something's got to shift here. So it wasn't, you know, any one big moment. It was a gradual, you know, and if I go back, it's not like it even happened over a 12-month period. I mean, this is, you know, decades of just sort of seeing this evolution and watching it and noticing that I wasn't even familiar to myself. Like I was losing like parts of me. But the saying no thing is a really big one because it just, and I observed it in my behavior. I would say yes to things I wanted to say no to, or I would almost find myself seeking permission to sort of opt in or opt out, or like apologizing and like these long explanations about why I couldn't do something, or why I couldn't be somewhere, or why I didn't want to work on this project, or why a deadline was, whatever it was. And I was like, wait a minute, this is exhausting. Like I am tired and I don't owe anybody all of this. And so, you know, that was a big one for me, the idea of just being comfortable saying no, being really confident about, you know, expressing opinions. You know, I don't agree. 3 words. Another big one is I rest. Okay. So if I go back 10 years, 15 years ago, new mom, had kids, busy career, a husband, life was just overtaking me. The idea of me looking around and going, I need a break, felt like a weakness. It felt like I was lazy. Like that's kind of messed up. So it's, you know, I wish, you know, I wish, well, I don't know if I wish, but it was no one big sort of explosive moment, but it was just this becoming aware of all of these things showing up in almost every facet of my life. And me just sort of recognizing, you know what, enough, enough. And something's got to change, and it needed to start with me.
Right. Oh, thank you for that. As you were talking, I was recalling how that kind of played out for me. I wasn't, I don't think I was saying yes to things that I wanted to say no to. I think I was just forever hopeful that my yes was going to have a different result in the from the person that I was doing all these things for. And I think that, you know, as a firstborn girl, my displays were very performative, and no one was ever mad at me
No,
for doing
no.
everything and doing it well, and
Right.
you know, making new recipes and making it even prettier than last time. And I liked that. I liked
Mm-hmm.
the accolades of
Mm-hmm.
that, and that was fueling me.
Mm.
But the person that, well, so many failed premises in this experience, but
Yeah.
I was looking for the accolades from
Mm.
the person that was not available to give
Right.
them to me.
Right.
And I made that my quest: do it better, do it more,
Mm.
do it harder, do it prettier, do it with even less negative complaining than the no
Mm.
complaining that I was, you know, it was
Yeah.
just, it was so fascinating
Mm.
to watch myself in
Mm.
this song and dance
Mm-hmm.
or an audience that doesn't like musicals,
Right. Oh, that's a good
right?
analogy. Yeah.
So, and then to recognize that, and at the same time of recognizing what it even means to have agency.
Mm,
So to know that, oh, I've been waiting for this person to give me permission to live the life I want. And actually, I'm her. I give
yeah,
myself
it's me.
permission.
Yeah.
And then once that unfolded, it's like, oh, like you mentioned, I'm not available, 3 words. I I had a bit of a different reframe of I'm only available
Hmm.
for what delights me, for what is expansive to me, what feels good to me. And if that was also an up level for those around me, fantastic. But
Yeah.
I was no longer making it my job for
Mm.
them to have a fabulous experience. And the last thing I will say about that is they never tasked me with that job. I did that myself.
Correct. There's so much in that. So I want to just touch on that point too. So many of us women carry these loads that we were never asked to carry. We task them with ourselves. And somehow, I know for me personally, if I just take my career as an example, my capability, right, to take on hard things, to solve hard problems, to fix broken things, to build things that had never existed, and my capability there became my currency. And
Mm.
it became the things that I was known for. But if you kind of take that thread and you apply it to the whole, this idea that, midlife is not necessarily a crisis, but it's some sort of awakening or it's some sort of reclamation. There are signs that I, and many of the women that I talked to for the book, sort of noticed that were the triggers to say, hey, something's got to change. And for me, those signs were rooted in this idea that like my life didn't really feel like mine anymore.
Mhm.
Sort of didn't recognize a lot of the parts about me that actually made me, the very best parts. And they were kind of rooted in sort of decades of unlearning these truths, right? And
Mhm.
these beliefs, things like for me, and for many of the women that I talk to, things like you're not enough as you are, or saying no somehow makes too many people uncomfortable.
Right.
So your job is to contort yourself and to be the steady thing that is responsible for everybody else around you.
Well,
And
they're moving targets,
well,
but
yes,
your
yes,
steadiness has to also balance all of that.
correct, because we exist to make others comfortable.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, if we're doing it well.
yes, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, and I noticed that, through talking to these women and who were so gracious to share their stories, as well as bringing in the experts, I think some of the things that were the most surprising and liberating that were reaffirmed for me is that, many of us are this behavior is modeled. Somehow we're rewarded by keeping the peace, playing small, making it pretty, keeping it easy, and always raising the bar for that, right? And I noticed for me too, a lot of that came at the expense of me. Like somehow, if I were to inject a want or a need or a desire, and I was going to prioritize that on the list, it meant that everybody around me was going to suffer.
Right.
Like, how do I carry that?
Yeah.
I don't want to
And
carry
you're
that.
selfish and ungrateful.
And you're selfish and ungrateful, which
Even
is
though all we're
ridiculous.
doing is I mean, I can't think of a better word than bidding, but the
Yeah,
requests of
yeah,
everyone around us. And
correct.
again, we weren't living uh, with a serial killer that we
No,
were afraid was gonna like it's all inside our head based on
yeah,
our conditioning and the stories, but
totally.
because it's so in service and because
Mm,
it's so pervasive, no
yeah.
one's mad that
No,
we're setting ourselves on fire to make sure everyone else is warm.
no, nobody gets mad about that.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is, there's a lot of the biological things that are shifting for us hormonally. I think that there's a lot of just sheer exhaustion
Yeah.
Because when you do this for so long, like your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotional, your nervous system, there is a capacity limit. And also, for me, it was to that was this idea that I was somehow modeling a behavior for my boys.
Yeah.
I did, a pattern that I did not want them to have to repeat in the same way that I did.
Sure.
So, one of the stories that I remember I held on to really deeply was this idea of, this intact family. I married their dad. We were building a life. And was I happy? No. Was he happy? No. Could we be happier in other ways? Yep. But I was so white knuckling this idea of keeping a family intact that because I thought that that's what my boys deserved. But in actuality, what they deserved was a happy mom and a happy Angela. And I don't think that they ever really knew me.
Right. And like that, we get to redefine intact.
Yes,
Like you being your full self and him being his full self, that is a family intact. You just don't
that's
live at
it.
the same address.
Correct.
Same.
Correct. And there is no like rule book. We're not being judged on what's right or what's wrong. But with a lot of that redefinition comes the fear and the embarrassment and the guilt and the shame, and it's all layered on. And change is somehow defined as bad and a failure. And hey, sometimes change is just different, and sometimes different is just different. And also, failure is a perception. And if we fail, cool. There's good things that come on the other side of failure. And is the process through which you have to go painless? No. Is it clean? Nope, it's messy. But do you get through it? And the answer is yes. And it starts with just little tiny steps, but it's hard when you're in it, it's hard to kind of see through the messiness,
Yes.
and trust yourself and trust the process, and see through those curves. And that's, I think, why some of us get so stuck, because
Right.
these stories just play over like a tape.
Yes. And even stuck in the indecision
Oh yeah.
to make the change. So for me, my divorce started about, well, I mean, it probably started about 22 years before it happened, but
Yeah,
you know, hindsight is 2020.
of course.
But I sat in the question of
uh,
my marriage for about 9 months. And
right.
that was because I didn't even think it was an option because he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't beating me or cheating on
Right,
me. So
right.
death by a thousand paper cuts, that one's not in the Bible. So
No.
I mean, I thought it wasn't. It actually is, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's a whole nother show. So I really I sat in that question and I
Mm-hmm.
committed to a morning practice and connecting, finding alignment for myself, what that felt like, all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. Then the courageous conversation, which set both of us free,
Mm-hmm.
even though, he was mad, but literally 30 seconds of mad.
Right, right.
And then, oh, okay, well, here's this, and the 401k is this, and the judge is going to make me give you this. I was like, wow,
Yeah, yeah. Wow,
okay,
okay.
awesome. Then, 3.5 years of divorce settlement, and now
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
finally divorced.
yeah.
All that to say, in those 9 months of sitting in the question, in that anchoring into my own personal alignment,
Mm-hmm.
in identifying what I am available for, which
Mm.
for me was just an easier spin than what I'm not available for,
Totally.
I was able to realize that I get to decide how this goes for
Mm.
me. I get to own
Mm-hmm.
my experience. And so
Mm-hmm.
I decided I'm going to have the best divorce that has ever been had. And he's going to have whatever one he's going to have, but I'm going to have the best one. And
Mm-hmm.
I should have said the shortest, but I didn't. I said the best. And I'm really grateful for the woman I became in that
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
But all of that to say is that I didn't know what I was capable of
Mm.
until I made the first decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was given what I needed to take the next step and the next step and the next step. And when people would, ask me about him or something, and I would say, oh, we're in the process of a divorce, and they would immediately say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I would say, no, congratulations.
Mhm.
Oh, oh, congratulations. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have this opportunity to create a new narrative
Yep.
around everything that's happening, and it requires zero buy-in from any spectator except for you.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much in that that I think is really important and kind of threads to some of the things that I talk about in the book. And that is this idea that sometimes, to even recognize that, you kind of have to pause and just look at what's happening. And
Mhm.
then, if you have a feeling or a need or a desire that is bubbling to your conscious, it's like, okay, I need to say this out loud to myself. You don't have to say it to anybody else, but the act of saying something out loud to yourself, making a decision, making a declaration, it that breaks a thought pattern. It interrupts a
Mm,
pattern. And in so doing that, right? It's a simple thought that you translate into a sentence that you say out loud. That is the start of a plan. And I think some of us, and I know for me, I'm a process gal. I love a good plan. I love a good scenario. I have to have every scenario baked out. I got to marinate in the worst case scenario, and then I build myself out. That's just how I'm wired. But, even the act of going, hey, I'm not happy. Hey, I could be happier. Hey, I'm not satisfied with what is happening in my life right now. Saying that out loud, I'm in an empty room. That's all I have to do is say it out loud to myself. It changes the pattern of thinking. And then that is the starting point. That's starting. So do you have to have a perfect plan? Nope. Do you have to have the next 12, 24, 18, 36, 48 months planned out? Nope. But you've started it. That small act of keying into something is not right. I need, want, desire something, and saying it out loud to yourself in an empty room, like that is the start. And that's forward movement. And that to me is where the trajectory can totally do a 180.
right, right. Oh, thank you for that. That's so beautifully said. And understand that these decisions, whether you're completing with a marriage or a job or just a pattern that's no longer sustainable, the process is simple, but
Mm,
this is not easy.
yeah.
We're retraining ourselves, and what makes it easier is to not expect perfection, to
Mm-mm.
not expect that you're not going to come up against your growth edge and do something incorrectly and all of this stuff, but that's the momentum and
Mm,
the support
yeah.
and that alignment. Like
Yeah.
knowing what you want, which you can say it in the empty room, feel how that lands in your body and where that lands in your body. And is it what needs to be tweaked about it? And,
Mm,
so much of that is not, well, I'm not happy and I need him to change that. We can't go there.
no.
I'm, I could be happier. I want more.
Yeah.
And it's only what I want, regardless of
Yeah.
what anyone else is doing, and moving toward that.
Yeah.
How what was the process like for you in writing the book?
Yeah.
What did you want to
Yeah.
communicate? I mean, it's so beautiful, just
Oh, thank
even
you.
the title alone, The
Yeah.
Real Girl's Guide to Midlife. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, please. This should be
Yeah.
required reading, even though just to know that there is a guide. But
Yeah.
what was this process like for you?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back in time about 20 years. So I actually had this book idea when I was 35. And it was
Brilliant.
going to be called The Real Girl's Guide to 35, to Over 35, because at that point I was really struggling. I was a new mom. I had 2 kids. 2 of my 3 were born then. I was in a marriage that, was it going to go the distance? I don't know. I was at a career crossroads. Unbeknownst to me, my hormones were already starting to change at that time. My appearance, like nothing tragic, but like, you hit in your mid 30s and like things just are a little different.
Yeah.
And I was looking around and I was like, man, everybody seems to have everything together.
Mm.
Everybody's so shiny and happy. And then I was kind of thinking, okay, it must be me. I'm the crazy one.
Mm.
This all must be in my head. Who, like I ungrateful for sort of questioning all these things, but I started to put this book idea together. And I knew that I wanted it to be some of the big questions that I had. I knew I wanted other women to share their story and their findings and their experiences. And I knew that I wanted experts to weigh in. So I built a folder. It's like, those old timey like file folders. Well,
Yes.
mine was red, and I put everything into a folder. And then that folder got buried, literally and figuratively. And so in December of 24, I retired. And I was pivoting to consulting, doing that part-time. But I found the folder is basically what happened. And I opened the folder and I was like, well, look at that. Turns out a lot of the things that I was struggling with then, I still am. Turns
Interesting.
out that some of the things that I was struggling with, I've kind of come out the other end of.
Yeah.
And I had a whole new host of things that
Right.
I wasn't even aware of 20 years ago that I am now struggle city with. So then I was like, okay, cool. Because I was looking around and I was like, nobody's talking about this stuff. And I love a good before and after. Okay.
Yep.
I love a good, oh, everything was like really bad. And then after, look at me. But there's a lot of crap in the middle that just
Right.
is messy. So I couldn't find that. We weren't talking about a lot of the things. And I go deep. I get real in the book. I go deep. I'm very unfiltered. I am very raw. Because I needed help. I needed to surface these things because nobody was talking. And then the other thing I realized was like, look, I love that Halle Berry is talking about menopause. I
Right.
love that Naomi Watts has written a book and is selling some products. But guess what? I'm not those women. I'm just a gal trying to figure this stuff out, literally batting away new symptoms, occurrences, revelations, whatever on a daily basis. I'm dealing with changing in my parenting as 2 of my kids are adults. I'm dealing with a relationship that has been the best relationship of my life, but that is formed with a man who lives in Australia. I live in California. Like nothing looks like I thought it was going to look. And I was like, that's what I need. I just need real stories. And I need I need affirmation. I need to be
Mm.
affirmed that I am not alone. I
Right.
never was.
Right.
I am enough. I always was.
Yes.
I am not crazy because I was never falling
Right.
apart. It was never in my head and it still isn't. And that process of writing the book, and I'm not a writer, but I opened the folder. I was like, okay, I can
You
do this.
are a writer.
Well, I
You
am
are a
now.
published
I
author.
am. But back then I wasn't. And so I went through a couple months too of kind of going like, oh, who am I to do this? Why should I blah? And the good news was like that thought process is still there, but it was shortened like
Mm.
considerably. And I
Mm.
quickly got through the same like, oh, who am I to think I could do this? And should I, what,
How
blah.
did you do that?
Well, those things like I keyed into them and then I sat with it
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, what is this all telling me? And then I just decided, why not me?
That's right.
Why
Who am
not
I
me?
not to do this?
Right. And so I started writing and I had rules for myself. One of them was I started writing only 45 minutes a day. And then it became, as I was in this process, I would write for only 45 minutes at a time. And the reason why is I found that anything more than 45 minutes, I would go back and rewrite what I wrote and I would start to edit it because I would
Ooh.
go, oh, I'd soften it. Or I'd go, oh, I can't say that. Or I'd go, oh, the person that I'm writing about, how are they going to receive what I'm writing? And I thought, I'm not doing that. I spent decades of my life editing myself,
Mm-hmm.
softening my opinions,
Mm-hmm.
being fearful of saying the things that were really happening to me and how I felt about them. So 45 minutes was the magic. And
I
then
love
about
that.
two, yeah, because I found myself then going back and I'm like, nope, not going to do it. So
Gosh,
that
that's so
discipline.
good.
Yeah. And so then I started the Substack in June of 25. So started writing in April of 25, started the Substack in June of 25. And it was really like I had no big master plan. It was like, oh, I'll just get feedback on my writing and see if anything that I'm writing is remotely interesting and is it entertaining? Because I really did want to do this. And the other thing that I realized through this process was, a lot of why I wrote the book when I did was to model things that I tell my boys. One of which is we finish what we start.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to take a risk in life, always bet on ourselves. So those two things were really important that I show them. I can't just tell them, but I have to show them. And as I got through the process, I was talking to somebody and I said, hey, I really want to have this book published within 1 year of my retirement. And I got like a chuckle from this person. They were like, well, you'll be lucky if you get a manuscript done. And I'm like, well, you
Wow.
don't know me.
Right.
So watch it. So
Yeah.
I had the manuscript done in July. I decided I was going to move to self-publishing in August. I got an editor. We worked on that process. And I'll tell you what, that book was available and launched on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the sites on December 10th of 25, which was 1 year. That was my 1 year retirement anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
Amazing.
I did the thing, and through that process, was I scared? Sure. And every time I put out even a Substack now, I always think, oh man, this is going to be the one, and it's just been really affirming. And I think even the structure of the book, right? Like getting so many women who gave me their stories to tell, like I do not take that lightly. And as I started eliciting expert opinions, I was thinking to myself, who's going to want to talk to, like, I'm not an author here, right? So that was one thought. The second one is I had like 2 or 3 backup plans in the event that I did not get stories and I didn't get expert opinion. So I go to the worst case scenario. I
Right.
got to marinate in that. So, and it was so amazingly gratifying and humbling. And I don't take any of that for granted that so many people raised their hand and said, yes, me too. And I want to be a part of this. So like, I cannot even express my gratitude on that because it
How did you
was,
find these women to share their stories for the book?
yeah. So, okay, I'll tell you. So some of them were people that I knew,
Mhm.
which, and as I started to tell more people that I was writing this book and I started to write my Substack, it was like the law of attraction. People and women were coming to me going, oh my gosh, like I'm not the only one. And oh my gosh, look at my story. And what about this? And what about that? So I was flooded. But then there's a couple of resources that journalists and writers can use and tap
You.
into for the purpose of putting out a request or a set of queries. And then, people like mine these requests that come up on a daily basis and they volunteer their points of view. And I sort of thought like I'll put these requests out there, but I'm not a published author at this point. Like this is ridiculous. And I was inundated, absolutely inundated with the
Oh,
richest, most personal and most gracious and deep and meaningful content from experts. I had attorneys and financial experts, psychologists, therapists, life coaches, grief coaches, and women across the world who were just giving their perspective and they're sharing their experiences. And I was like, I cannot believe this. It was really, really amazing.
I love that for you. I love it for them. I love it for me hearing it. I
Yeah.
love it for our
Yeah.
listener because you you're not the only one with the soundtrack
No.
going on about how you're not qualified to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And your request gave the opportunity for another woman to shut her ears to that limiting belief
Yeah.
and share her voice and her
Yeah.
expertise and her wisdom that which buoyed you up, which buoyed
Yeah.
her up. And
Yeah.
when we are saying that we are all in this together and that we do have a voice and that this collective uprising
Mm.
is not, I mean, it's scary. It should be this divine feminine rising. Like it is as scary as it sounds
Yeah.
in the sense of what is not in alignment with that tsunami of love,
Mm.
it will be destroyed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and it's time. So that's
It's
all
time.
good. But
Uh-huh.
there's something so beautiful that I'm sure it's not new, but I feel new to the game of this um collaborative,
Mm.
beautiful tapestry of women that are using their voices, using their experience, using their platforms, using their microphones, and finding each other, finding
Totally.
this community inside of that. It's
Yeah.
so gorgeous that I feel
Yeah.
like the the game plan was isolation
Mm.
because it made us feel like we were the only ones and that we were crazy and that we were selfish and ungrateful and all the things. And it only took one shared story leaving that exchange with oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah.
And then it changed everything.
You're right. Because the system is designed to keep us quiet. You
Mhm.
know, for many of us, it's designed to keep us easy and quiet and small and shrinking and just, the comfortable, steady, safe place for everybody. And I did find that, the more I shared, the more women who shared with me, and the stronger we all got collectively. Because you lose these soundtracks of I'm alone, I'm the only one. And there's something very honest about the messiness and the vulnerability
Yes.
that comes from just saying it's not perfect, and it's not, and I'm going to tell you what it felt like to be in it. And so what's also interesting is I was having this conversation with my youngest son, who is 15, and I was going back and forth about the name of the book, actually. And he's like, Mom, here he is. I just have to, 6 foot, 15-year-old boy. Okay. Third son. He and I are, we spend a lot of time together, my little one and me. And so I'm like hemming and hawing about this book. And he said, I don't know why you don't call it The Real Girl's Guide to Over 35 like you wanted to initially. And I was like, little dude, like I'm way past that. He's like, Mom, this book will help so many women who are in their 30s. Like, and you're
Mm.
teaching them how to do it. And so, that is kind of what got me to this idea of midlife. And then even the graphic on the book, which is so beautifully done, it encapsulates this idea that, hey, midlife is not a magic decade. It
Right.
is not a point in time. It is the collective experience. And it's for anybody, any woman, anybody who's going through these transitions where you're feeling something is shifting. What is shifting? And then how do I pay attention to that? And so I have sisters who are much younger, in their 30s. And I like to say that I am their crash test dummy on a lot of things. But the fact that there's kernels of what they're reading and what they're hearing me talk about, that it might not be their experience today, but it could be their experience in a year or two, or it's giving them the courage to go, hey, you know what, now that you talk about this, my cycle is changing, I'm going to go to my doctor and I'm going to just let my doctor know.
Mm-hmm.
Having not had the collective voice
Right.
and hearing, hey, it's never too early to pay attention to this stuff, that's giving them the confidence to go, no, 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 I'm not going to sit back and assume that it's nothing until it's
Right.
huge. I'm going to talk about it now.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is something very magical, not only about what is happening now and how the women in their 30s and 40s who are white knuckling a lot of stuff can
Mm-hmm.
benefit. But what was also reaffirmed for me in writing this book is I had the pleasure of working with women who were in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And the oldest real girl in the book is a woman. Her name is Diane Heiler. She herself is an author. She wrote a book about grief, which I highly recommend. Everybody should read this book. But she did it in her late 70s after losing her second husband. And it was her process of going through this grief and realizing, oh my gosh, like I want to write about it. So keyed into a new element of creativity at that point in time, went on to find new love, in her early 80s, and I interviewed her for the book. She's one of the interviews that I have in the book. And one of the last questions I asked her was, what has been the most surprising thing about finding love in your 80s? And she said that the parts still work and I like it. And I
Oh,
decided in that
love
moment,
her.
that is what I want. So if I get to any of these decades coming forward, I have a new foundation that I am building today.
Yeah.
And if I decide at 80 that the parts still work and that I like it, I'm going to make that so for myself.
Yeah.
I don't need permission. I don't
Right.
need to be embarrassed. I don't need to be weak. I don't need to be anything about that. I need to own that experience for myself. And so it's not like it just ends in your 50s, right? It
Right.
is a
Oh,
new
good God, I
reality.
hope not.
God, we are building a new foundation. And so imagine what our 60s are going to look like. Imagine what our 70s are going to look like. And for all of us, let's hope we get to be like Diane and be thriving in
Yes.
always in our 80s, because that's what I want.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And thank
Yeah.
you. I want Diane on the podcast
I
because
think you need to talk to
she's
her.
the queen.
She is a queen, honestly. And this woman, her perspective, her inspiration, her validation, her affirmations have changed me.
Mm,
Yeah. So I feel
love
so
that.
blessed to have met her through this process. I never would
Right,
have met her if not for this process.
right. Your yes has unlocked so
Yeah.
many hows.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just so beautiful and continues to do so.
Yeah.
Besides Queen Diane, was there anything else that surprised you in this process about just what women were talking about
Yeah.
and like how it's on the mind of the collective, but not on the tongue of the collective?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few things surprised me. Number one, that so many of us have a lot of these stories and these tapes that we are trying to unlearn.
Yeah.
A lot of them are rooted in similar threads. So that was maybe not surprising, but certainly affirming.
Mhm.
That meant and that there's no one experience. There's no one right way to do this. There's
For
no
sure.
one recipe or prescription that's going to work for everybody. And so the fact that I was getting so many different stories and experiences just made us all a little bit smarter to go, there is no one way. And if this thing doesn't work for you, do something else. And one of the things that it did for me personally was, it was right about kind of the summer of my writing journey. I was talking to an expert who is also in the book. It was right about the time that the FDA was doing their big evaluation of the black box label on vaginal estrogen cream. And it was also the time where I was really struggling with a new wave of postmenopausal symptoms that were completely unlike anything I had experienced in my prior postmenopausal period, a
Okay.
whole new set. And so I was talking to her, it gave me the language to go, I need to go to my doctor. Like I'm unsatisfied with what is happening for me. And a lot of it was like my bladder, a lot of it was my libido, but I went to my doctor and I said, hey, this is what's happening. And basically, doctor that I had for almost 30 years looked at me and she's giving me the sympathetic, head nod. And she's like, yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? And I thought, yeah, it is. That's why I'm here. And then
Right.
I explained the libido situation, which, I was really trying to explain it to my partner and I didn't have the language. And I'm just like, something's changed and I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
it. And she knows my partner lives in Australia. Okay. My
Right.
man lives in Australia. I'm in California. What she said to me in this appointment was, well, sounds to me like you and your man need to go on more dates.
Oh,
And I
goodness.
thought, are you kidding me? So that happened just as I interviewed Chris Amato for the book, another expert. And one of the last things she said to me was, if you are getting gaslit by your doctor, find a new doctor.
Right.
Right. So
Yes.
it was like divine timing. All these things
Yes.
come together. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this woman who has delivered my babies. Like you have taken care of me at my most vulnerable. And I'm telling you, something's changing. And your advice to me, which is putting all the responsibility back on me again, like everything else in life, to go on more dates with my man who lives 8,000 miles away. Cool. Thanks, but no thanks. And that
Yeah.
was the end of it. Last time I saw her, found a new doctor, a whole new set of possibilities available for me in terms of treatment that I had written off. as I raw dogged my whole menopause journey, and my life has changed because
Oh,
I fired my
good.
doctor. And guess what? I have new medicine that I'm on. The libido's coming back.
Yay.
I'm sleeping better. Like all these things were changed in that moment. And yeah, would I have probably been dissatisfied with that answer? Yes. Would I have eventually gotten around to trying to? Probably. But that timing, the fact that I was writing this book, I met Chris, her
Hmm.
last line, if you're getting gaslit and not getting answers, find a new doctor. And it
Right.
gave me everything I needed. And that changed my
Right.
entire experience.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that because I think we hear this over and over and over again, and that it's like, oh, well, that's menopause, or oh, well, yeah, that tracks with what my textbook
Yeah.
says, or whatever. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
I
And
didn't go to med school and I have the same information you did. Like, what
yeah.
are we going to do here?
Yeah. What are we going to do here?
Yeah, and sometimes that is not the room where we're going to get the answers that we need.
Correct. Correct.
And, that leads into a conversation I don't necessarily want to have about our healthcare system, but
Yeah.
I had a really great conversation on the podcast, and the doctor's name is escaping me, and it will come to me, and Shannon magically will put it in the show notes. Amazing.
I love it.
But she was so great at explaining, oh, Wendy, our health insurance monster is for navigating illness.
Yeah.
You are navigating wellness.
Yeah. It's
And
a
that is a
really good
different
frame.
building.
It is a different
And
building.
and it's not covered by your health insurance.
Yeah.
And that's okay
Yeah.
because you're feeling better and you're
Yeah.
generating wealth. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, these narratives that
Yeah.
your practice of saying it out loud is so brilliant because some of these things make a lot of sense when they're on replay in our head, but
Mm,
they lose all their power once they fall out of our mouth and are outside of our body.
mm-mm.
Like, oh, if it's not covered by insurance, it's A, not real medicine.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It
Yeah.
B, not available for me because I'm just a single mom
Yeah.
entrepreneur, flower
Yeah.
farmer doing my best, and I can't
Right.
invest in my body until my credit card balance is zero. Like
Yeah.
whatever
Whatever.
nonsense loopy thing that goes on. And that, like, all of these things, all of these narratives, every single narrative gets to be questioned
Yeah.
by the woman that you are now.
Correct.
And we are just going to start saying these things out loud and
That's
then
it.
recognizing, oh, that I actually don't believe that. Or I'm
Yeah.
going to say something out loud and you're going to say, oh, say more about that.
Yeah, please. I've been feeling the same way. I need to learn. You're absolutely
Right.
right. You're absolutely right. I think, and it is the practice of just saying it out loud,
Yeah.
to yourself in an empty room. That changes that simple act and that simple sentence or whatever it is that you say out loud to yourself in an empty room can change everything.
And then you become more available for the things that you want to say in front of someone else.
Yeah.
Also, because I am reminded a few months ago, my dear friend Sharon she's a women's empowerment coach, but she also has a degree in interior design. And so
Ooh, fun.
she like helps you define your next chapter, and then she comes to your house and creates the space that supports the woman you're becoming.
Yep.
And as we were doing different rooms in my house, we were in my bedroom and she was like, oh, say more about this bed. And I was like, oh yeah, Keith built it and it's very heavy and it can't leave. It has to be here forever. And she was like, say
Did
more
you just
about
hear
that.
that? Yeah.
And I was
Tell me
like,
more.
well, no, he built it and he said when he built it, like this bed stays with the house, like it can't be taken apart. And she's like, does that make sense? If he put it together, do you think it could be taken apart? And I was like, my mind was blown. It's like, wait, I don't have to sleep in the bed that my ex-husband built?
Your
What
marital
are you
bed. Yeah.
saying? What is
Wait.
this sorcery? Like, oh my God. So some of these stories are
Oh,
so entrenched
yeah.
and they're just not in service.
They're just not in service. And I think, it is the simple act of just saying something out loud. Um, and if you just pause and listen to yourself, it's like, okay, is that who I am today? Not
Right.
who I was 20 years ago, not who I was 2 months ago, but who I am today. And also not who and maybe fueled by, hey, I don't have a clear perception, but who do I want to be? Is this
Right.
in line with who I want to be
Yeah.
moving
And it's
forward? And if the
okay.
answer is no or yes, like own it, sit in it, stand in it, or scorch it.
Right. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't the right decision then.
No,
It's just no longer in service. It's
correct.
okay.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, I could talk
Oh,
to you all day long.
I
Thank you
know.
for this beautiful conversation. You're so
Thank
generous.
you.
Please
Thank
tell
you.
everyone where they can find and follow you, how
Yep.
they can get their hands on the book, all
Yep.
the things.
Absolutely. So Substack is realgirlsguide to midlife.com. I write about 2 or 3 times a week. The book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, all the places that you love to buy your books, Real Girls Guide to Midlife. I've got companion tools that are available to just kind of take everything that we talk about in the book and help you just start working on some practices that are super small, but things that you can own and do on your own. And I am just so thrilled. And I'm on the socials too, which is just, that's a whole other beast in and of itself,
Yes,
man.
it is.
Humbling on a daily basis, but you can find me on Instagram at Real Girls Guide 55.
Love it. Thank you
Yes.
so much,
Thank
Angela,
you.
for this conversation.
Loved it. Thank you for having me, Wendy.
Mhm.